Rangolee. Ranga means color. Oi means lines. So Rangolee means lines of colors. What is it? An art? A tradition? A constrained creativity? It is all that, plus something more. Rangolee is a folk art from India. Rangolee gives a spiritually uplifting experience. It creates an ambiance. Rangolee is a picture language or a computer program in picture form. Drawing it daily, besides developing good hand and eye coordination, can develop discipline in the mind that is necessary to do math and science. Educators of mathematics say the mathematical models and Rangolee designs build that logic in children's brains by transferring kinesthetic intelligence. Dr. Ron Eglash from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York on kinesthetic intelligence.
Well, we're all familiar with the way that different kids are good at different things. So some kids are good at writing, some kids are good at math, some kids are good at listening. We don't pay much attention to the way that kids are intelligent with their bodies. And so that's what kinesthetic intelligence is all about. Now, you might think, well, if a figure skater has high kinesthetic intelligence, that's great for figure skating, but how's that going to help this person have a career in science or technology? But if you think about somebody like a brain surgeon or an architect, right, the intelligence that's embedded in their bodily movements is all about science and technology. So there really is a complex wealth of information that can be conveyed through bodily movement, as I'm doing now with my hand gestures.
Rangolee also provides a powerful tool to investigate the natural link among people from all over the world. Let us have this exploration of art, math, science, and much more through the discovery of Rangolee. Rangolee is an ancient art of floor decoration in India. Rangolee has different names in different parts of India, such as Puvidal in Kerala, Kolam in South India, Chitta in Orissa, Alpana in Bengal, Madana in Rajasthan, and Rangolee in Maharashtra. Women draw designs with white or colored sand powder in the front yard, in the backyard, around the dinner plate, and may be decorating them with flowers, colors, beads, or even colored lentils. The designs are also drawn to welcome the guests or a new season like spring or celebrations like weddings or birthdays. Early morning, a woman of the house cleans her front yard and draws Rangolee. This art is passed down to her from her mother or elder sister. The belief is that when a person sees Rangolee in the entrance of the house, they enter the house with good, cheerful, and happy moods, keeping all evil emotions away from the house, thus not affecting the peace and balance of the household. A myth is told in the state of Rajasthan. Dr. Vidyut Akluskar from Vancouver, Canada, on myth.
It tells us about a widow whose clever daughter-in-law, both of them lived in poverty, but this daughter-in-law was also very clever and artistic. So at the time of Diwali, she was drawing the mandna, the small drawing of Rangolee in Rajasthan, to worship goddess Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. Lakshmi came at night, at that dark night, to inspect her household and loved her drawing. So the daughter-in-law worshipped, greeted Lakshmi, worshipped her in the proper manner, and requested Lakshmi to please stay in the household while I complete the drawing. Lakshmi stayed, and the daughter-in-law went on and on and on, augmenting on the pattern and filling the entire courtyard. So Lakshmi realized the trick that she was playing on her. Lakshmi liked her cleverness, and before leaving the household, she blessed the household and left her footprints So that is how they say that the art of drawing the goddess of wealth's footprints in Rangolee started.
A pinch of powder is held in thumb and forefinger. Thumb is rolled into forefinger to let powder fall smoothly in a thin stream. Colored powder is used to decorate the designs. One may categorize Rangolee designs according to the method of drawing them. Isometric or rectangular or fractal or radial dots are drawn in a certain pattern and are then connected in a certain order to form geometrical shapes or patterns or natural objects like leaves, flowers, animals, or birds. South Indian kolam is of this form. Freehand drawings of geometrical shapes, circular forms are more common, but square and triangle are also found. Natural objects or scenes from nature, history, epics, or stories from Purana. In traditional Rangolee designs, there is a scope for creativity as far as individual style in creating new patterns. Not every musician is a composer, but practices an already existing music. We can describe Rangolee as a constrained creativity. Dr. Eglosh on constrained creativity.
So in math class, you have one right answer, and it's boring and it's not creative. And even if you do figure out the solution, the teacher already knew it, and there's only one of them. In art class, there's lots of solutions, an infinite number. But there's often a lack of constraints, and kids are told, well, either you have artistic talent or you don't. So what's nice about these cultural graphs is we can apply some constraints. We can tell the kids, okay, I want you to create a figure in which you can only make right-hand turns, and you can only make right-angle turns. You have to go 90 degrees each time. What figures can you create with that, right? So immediately the kids are encountering mathematics, but they're doing so in a creative way. And it really gives you a whole different take on what math is like. And really, that's the mathematics that professional mathematicians are interested in. That's what gets them going in the profession. And somehow they manage not to get that beaten out of them in math classes during school. But if we could bring that right into the K through 12 classroom, I think we have a stand of chance of raising everybody's interest and appreciation and performance in mathematics.
In some designs, one finds reflection across an axis or mirror symmetry. For example, the coconut design has reflective symmetry about the y-axis. Similarly, some designs show rotation around a single point. For example, Goyari has a twofold rotational symmetry. Sometimes both symmetries are possible, such as that in Krishna's anklet. It has both reflective and rotational symmetry. Knowledge and understanding of patterns and symmetry is very important in science and math education. As German mathematician Amy Noether has said, whenever you see conservation law, you find symmetry. For example, in the 4th of July fireworks, you'll find symmetrical patterns in the sky where the law of conservation of momentum is at work. Practicing these designs with symmetry may provide those concepts and skills necessary in math and science for children. Finally, in many South Indian designs, you find scaling symmetry applied in cycles. You can build bigger patterns out of a smaller base pattern. Mathematicians call this iteration or recursion. So what's next? It's an obvious question in an artist's mind. Interestingly, many of these designs don't just have symmetry and patterns, but also have certain mathematical models embodied in them. For example, Nyangamor, or Lotus of Knowledge. Dr. Akluskar on Nyangamor.
For centuries, it has been the most auspicious flower in Hindu culture. The very fact that the Sanskrit language records more than 50 words which are synonyms of lotus is indicative of its importance in the culture. In every language of India, you will find more than 10 words for lotus. There is Kamala, Neeraja, Jalaja, Padma, and so on and so on. Jnana means knowledge, Those two words are actually cognates, as you can see by jnana, the K and KNO in English spelling, they are cognate words. So jnana kamal means the lotus of knowledge, and it is, I believe, ashtadala, right? It has got 8 petals. Right. So 8 petals, perhaps they signify all of the 8 aspects of any knowledge.
Nyankamal also depicts how one person's knowledge should be. A lotus growing in the dirt is still clean and pure. Similarly, a person's knowledge should be pure and unbiased. In this design, each dot is a part of 2 cycles, one clockwise and the other counterclockwise. It is also apparent in daisies, pineapple, and pine cones. In Nyankamal, there are 2 clockwise and 3 counterclockwise spirals. Connecting dots 1 to 4, 2 to 5, you get 2 clockwise cycle, and connecting dots 3 to 1, 4 to 2, and 5 to 3, you get 3 counterclockwise cycles. Dr. Gift Shiromani from Chennai, India, has come up with another method of drawing Nyankamal by following the pattern of 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 1. Repeating this order 8 times, you complete the design. Cyclic order is another interesting factor. Krishna's anklet, or grapevine, also shows another mathematical model called fractals. About 40 years ago, mathematicians discovered this pattern. Fractals have always existed in nature. A small duplication of the original pattern is the nature of this pattern. Fractal shapes have the property of self-similarity, in which a small part of an object resembles the whole object. One can see this in cauliflower and fern leaves. The only difference is that in fractals, the distance between the points that make growth reduces with new growth. In the grapevine, it stays the same. The grapevine design with reduced distance for new growth can be drawn. Fractals are also seen in the necklace designs from southern India. Basic pattern of Koyari design is constructed by drawing isometric pattern of 7 horizontal equidistant dots. First iteration is drawn with 11 dots. The second one is drawn with 15 dots. So the equation becomes ni plus 1 equals ni plus 4. Dr. Dara Shavy from Beloit Junior College in Beloit, Wisconsin, sees some iterations of the designs equivalent to building a sentence.
Here's a standard sort of column design, a fairly well-known one. This is the one that I used on the ethnomath poster, for example. And this, of course, is a multi-line drawing because we have these individual cloverleaf shapes, which occur in many, many different columns. So one of the things that's consistent across column design work are the use of specific modules, specific units. And these are graphical units that get reused in a wide variety of ways, very similar to the way that certain grammatical structures get reused in many ways. But now, if we were to just remove this particular little clover leaf and then see what we have left, this is the single drawing that we get from there. Now, this is really just an extension, sort of a stretching out of the standard anklets of Krishna.
Absolutely.
So when we take a look at something like this, we can analyze it and we can say, well, you know, we probably started with the anklets of Krishna, expanded it, and then added some additional designs.
Right.
So by looking at the geometry and thinking through it, we can, in some cases, understand where these designs came from. How did the artist construct them? To me, that's one of the mysteries that I'm interested in. And but we also see, you know, the way in which we start with a simple sentence structure, then we expand that and make room for these other clauses or the geometric equivalent of those clauses to be inserted.
Many cultures, including Africa, Native America, and Tibet, have similar sand drawing practices. Some designs also show similarity in drawings and even the stories attached to them. Their purposes vary from education to medicine to spirituality. When Madhuri Bapat from Thatcher, Arizona, first found out in her internet search that the design Chakravyuha in Indian culture is nothing but a Greek labyrinth, she jumped out of her chair. The story attached to Chakravyuha goes like this. A young warrior named Abhimanyu from the great epic of Mahabharata enters this trap made by an enemy. He knew how to enter, but didn't know how to get out. He thought he could kill all the soldiers of the enemy while entering. Instead, he gets killed at the center of the trap by 7 warriors of the enemy. The seeker is a Native American Indian, Tohono O'odham, symbol representing the cycle of birth and death. This is also called man in the maze. The man at the top of the maze depicts birth. By following the white pattern, beginning at the top, the figure goes through the maze encountering many turns and changes, as in life. As the journey continues, one acquires knowledge, strengths, and understanding. Nearing the end of the maze, one retreats to a small corner of the pattern before reaching the dark center of death and eternal life. Here one repents, cleanses, and reflects back on all the wisdom acquired. Finally, pure and in harmony with the world, death and eternal life are accepted. Madhuri figured out that, surprisingly, the seeker is an upside-down Chakravyuha, or Greek labyrinth. Can teaching these patterns in our schools improve our children's ability to do math and science? Many children mistakenly believe that math is not a part of their heritage. Cultural Eulerian graphs can help them understand that all cultures use math. They can provide our children with a global perspective, letting them learn about the traditions of various cultures while inspiring a new interest in their fascinating mathematical connections. Susan Bernstein from Madhuri Bapat's Rangolee class for adults at Eastern Arizona College on hand drawing in schools.
There's a slowness, and it forces you to focus your mind so that you don't just come running in from socializing in the hall and then, hi, go to math. But slow down, be able to focus, get back into yourself, and then you can really use your mind toward a lot more positive things. And the way they train it is, and this is at an elementary level, where they trace their hand, and this is the first activity every single day. And they come in and they trace their hand, and then they trace the lines a little bit small, thinner, and so that when you're all done, you've got the whole hand many times. And it's the same basic concept of slowing down, and your focus is on your hands, and your mind, it eliminates everything outside of that.
Instead of just drawing their own hand day after day, if children trace one design every day in the beginning of the school day, not only will they settle down, but they will also learn the symmetry and patterns of Rangolee. The joy of art is a plus on top of all of that. Math educators around the world have anticipated the positive effects of practicing Rangolee patterns on children's understanding of math and science. Madhuri has harvested many components of NCTM standards required in our schools from these designs, and she has developed a supplementary mathematics curriculum called Dot Math based on these designs. She has tested it in local charter schools in Safford, Arizona. Children love these hands-on activities. Madhuri has received excellent gains and statistical significance on pre- and post-tests that students took. Besides math concepts such as numbers, math facts, algebra, geometry, measurements, and symmetry, higher-level concepts such as combinatorics, network theory, and computer algorithms are brought into elementary schools through this curriculum. Creative tools that encourage children to use their imagination also build important skills such as thinking outside the box for students over the course of their education. The long-term effects of children using this wholesome educational tool will be interesting to analyze for years to come.